Hello, Laynie Brown.
Hi, Al.
We've made it to week 7, and I'm not the least bit exhausted.
No, because you know why? Because New York gives a person energy, I think,
New York City
as a person
itself,
who
that's why
loves New
these
York.
poets this week have fallen in love
Yeah,
with New York, and for the most part, they're not diffident. They're mostly pretty enthusiastic. Someone like O'Hara in particular.
very energizing O'Hara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are here, by the way, in the garret, the third floor garret of the 1851 Samuel Sloan designed throwback Tudor style anti-Victorian neo-Gothic cottage called the Kelly Writers House. And this is the third floor garret. This
This
is
is
where
your
I
office.
call it home, even though I don't sleep here. But you're
Somebody
sitting on a
used to
futon.
live here, right?
Briefly, we had a
Yeah.
program coordinator who lived here. It was a mess, so we got rid of that. And now the futon is used sometimes by a wayward poet who, can't get back to the hotel. Maybe a New York school poet.
Maybe.
There are New York school poets. We think of New York school poets having a second generation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suppose there are people who would be willing to call themselves third generation. But
Sure.
those who are influenced today by the New York school, which must be to some degree most young poets, are like a fourth generation. And I'm sure there are New York school poets who wind up sleeping on that futon. All right, let's name a couple of the key figures of this week, which is week 7, module 12,
Frank O'Hara.
Frank O'Hara. So what are we going to see in an O'Hara poem typically?
Well, we're going to see the I do this, I do that mode of New York school poems, which is a focus in our syllabus for
Yeah.
some of the choices.
I do
So-
this, that's present tense. I do that, not I did that. So
No.
typically poems, traditional poems are going to say, even Wordsworth, this is what I felt at that time. And it was profound, but it was the past. So why use the present tense? Why does I do this, I do that need to be so intensely present,
Well,
even though it
there's
happened
this
in the past?
extreme immediacy. So if we're talking about Frank O'Hara, for example, and he's walking through the streets and describing his day in the poem The Day Lady Died, we, the reader, are walking along with him. We're feeling the air of the city. We're noticing the ambiance of all the places that he is going, and our
Right.
mood is his mood.
So the city implies a certain structure, that may be too ponderous a word, but design of a poem that wants to follow its wanderings, not privilege one thing over another, right? Mm-hmm. So we call this kind of a paratextual approach where things in a long list of things that you did or you do in the city are not prioritized. He goes to the bank to withdraw some money. He buys a pack of cigarettes. He's not sure where he's going to end up in the Hamptons that night. He goes into the liquor store to buy something, and it's all a jumble, and none of it is prioritized, which is really a different approach to the way we live our lives, and very much like a great city like New York. Okay, who else?
Well, we've got Barbara Guest.
Barbara Guest. And that poem, 20, is, I nominated it as one of the great poems of all of Mod Po.
It's a wonderful poem.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So she uses either early morning rising or late night falling asleep. I think dream,
logic,
liminality,
perhaps.
to allow her to think of essentially linguistic transitions and puns from one thing to another. Okay, and then there's John Ashbery, who, like William Carlos Williams, is one of the kind of patron saints, and Emily Dickinson, one of the patron saints of Mod Po, in the sense that there are some really anthemic poems that he writes. Some Trees
Some
is a good
Trees.
example. And those of you who encounter Some Trees for the first time are going to want to grab that one for weddings, even for funerals. There's something about Some Trees that works. For anyone whose chance encounter of love itself, the encounter, creates meaning and gives the haphazardness of life and love its chance, as it were, of being the most important thing that happens to us. So that's some trees. And there's a poem that's not in the main syllabus that is anthemic, and it's called Just Walking Around, which is just a New York concept, right? Of just walking around. So that's the New York school, right? And I think you personally have a special place in your heart for the New York school.
Bernadette Mayer.
And that's because of Bernadette. Do you want to explain why that is? So we have a lineage right here in this room to you as a poet through Bernadette, through her relationship with other New York school poets. Why? Why is that so powerful for you?
I don't really have words, but Bernadette, just to say a couple things, we have her amazing experiments, which are so generative for generations of poets with just explosions of ideas, new ways to think about writing. We have on the main syllabus her poem, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is both dealing with the daily, the quotidian, domesticity, and also reading lists, film, politics, existential fears, and it all, she weaves it all in. Motherhood, right. So, really different content than Frank O'Hara or John Ashbery, but it's still daily. It's still, New York City.
Yeah.
And
Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a perfect example of what can be done with the New York school style in a very different vein, in a different setting. There she's upstate, I believe. Yeah, not New York. This is the week in which the third ModPo, they're always optional, but we encourage you to do it, the third optional ModPo essay is written. So it's due at the end of this week, week 7. And each year, it's about a different poet. I think the year in which we're recording this, it's about Bernadette Mayer, I believe, a Bernadette Mayer poem. Other years it might be Barbara Guest, other years it might be John Ashbery. And what you're asked to do is provide a close reading, simply enough, of that poem, and then post it to a special subforum for those essays. And then the following week, week 8, others will do peer reviews. Final thoughts on the New York school? I mean, it's just a fun week.
I
We love
it.
New York.
It's fantastic. It's so much fun.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you in a week.